He's a Hall of Famer. He's a badass. He's a baller. But I think most significantly, he has stepped up to the challenges of 2020 and the pandemic year that have negatively affected a lot of people. And he has kind of gone the other way and said, you know what? Instead of focusing on how this is negatively impacting my business, I'm going to find the ways to make this my best year ever. And I think that takes a lot of resolve. I think it takes a lot of skill and talent. And I think it takes a really big vision and someone that's not afraid to up their skill set to such a level that they can realize that very big goal they have for themselves. So without taking any more time away from our guest speaker, let me go ahead and turn it over to the greatness of Mr. Cody King. And man, we sure do appreciate your time here today.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. And by the way, I will say real quick before I dive into things, it's really cool to jump on a call and hear all this good stuff about money. I feel so grateful that I'm surrounded by a group of people that constantly talk about that. I just think that's the coolest thing ever. I know a lot of fields, don't talk about money. It's something that is really kept, kind of secret. And so it's cool to jump on a call and then that's all I heard, so very exciting to hear that. But yeah, so today my main message is really going to be about virtual service calls. I think that that's obviously been the biggest part of my year so far. Our events got canceled, and I think the last one I did was in February, and they've been canceled all the way through November so far. So we will be working them all. It'll be a little crazy. I don't know what it'll be like, but we decided we are going to work them all. So that's the only event that we'll have this year. So all of my 2020 sales have come from virtual servicings, and to be honest with you too, there are a couple people that I know that are doing some service calls in the field in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I live. But I really enjoyed the virtual service call, and it's been a cool thing for me. So I've just kept doing it. So that's going to be my main message today, guys. I'll tell you up front, I'm not going to bring any, groundbreaking, earth-shattering things. I think the beauty of virtual service calls is the simplicity of it. I think that that was one of the things when I started, I was kind of worried about, oh shit, like are things going to be different, and what I realized is the more I kept it the exact same, the better results that I had. I will go back and say there was a typo in that bio I sent. It was over $700 average order, not 800. We're working on 800 though. But anyway, it's been
get off the call then. Get off the call.
Nobody wants to hear from me now, man. So it's been a very, very cool, experience. So just to share some stats, I kind of put together here. Since March, I've sold $146,000, a little bit over that, all on the virtual servicings. None of that's come from any in-home stuff. None of that's it's been all virtual servicings. During the virtual servicings, I've had my biggest push ever. I've had my biggest month ever doing all virtual service calls. I kind of threw together some orders, what some of my orders looked like. And when I looked at this, I was kind of shocked at how not exciting it was, So I saw that there was 52 orders that were over 1,000. There were 32 orders over 1,500. There were 12 orders over 2,000, 3 orders over 3,000, and the biggest order I've had since March has been 4,800. And so I think that kind of shocked me because I was like, oh yeah, like I thought I was crushing it and selling $1,000 here, $1,000 there all the time, and I realized I wasn't. And part of the reason I bring that up is because it's not like, I think that everybody can sell $1,000 pretty easily, over the virtual servicing program. But I also think that you're going to have several, $500, $600, $700, $800 orders. And it's just like it is in home. Like there's absolutely no difference if you look at stats. And then the $4,800 one is pretty cool. I think if you would have told me that, a customer would spend $4,800, over a virtual servicings when this started, I would have been mind blown by that. So I think the cool thing there is it's very simple, but there's also room for a lot of big orders as well. So, some of the things I was jotting down as I took notes, one of the things I was really going over is I get asked a lot, and I think I said this earlier, but I get asked a lot like, hey, what's going to happen when you're allowed to go back in home? Like, are you going to continue to do this? And at first the answer was no, I'll probably go in home. But the longer this is continued, I dig this, man. This is, it's kind of a cool way to work, I think for me, it saves so much time. I don't have to, drive around home to home and, I don't have to spend a whole day going in and out of people's homes doing servicings when I'm doing that. I don't have to spend the time in between, driving. I can do more appointments in a day. and work less hours, right? I can do my appointments closer together, again, because of drive time. My days, I don't like to work evenings. So on the days that I did service calls, I would do a 9, 11, 1, 3 o'clock, and I'd be done by 5. Now I can start at 8:30. That's typically when I would leave for appointments anyway to go in home. I just walk down my stairs and sit in my dining room. It's pretty cool. And so I'm starting at the exact same time. And what's great is I end an hour earlier, and I'm also able to squeeze in an extra appointment. So instead of 5 appointments, I can do 6 appointments in a day. Then I can still end an hour earlier. I can still have my evening times. I can come down in the morning, have breakfast with my girlfriend. We can have lunch together. I enjoy that. She probably doesn't enjoy as much as I do. She probably gets sick of it. But for me, it's great. I've got dogs at home. I get to spend time with the dogs, in between appointments, play around with them. It's great, so I really enjoy that part of it. I've also found too, something that's kind of a neat little thing I never would have thought about. After you get the knives, it's pretty much 100% completion ratio. You can't have a customer no-show you because you have their knives. If they want their knives back, they got to talk to you, man. So that's pretty cool. I don't necessarily recommend this. I don't think it's right to do on purpose, but there's been times where, a customer's like, hey, I got to talk to my husband or my wife. And I'm like, cool. Hey, I'm going to go do something real quick. And I go out of the screen and I'm doing something around the house. They're kind of older people, so they don't know how Zoom works. I can hear what they're talking about. So when I come back in, it's a very easy close, right? I know what to do. I don't recommend doing that on purpose, but I've had that happen a couple times. I'm doing something around the house and that happens. So, there's some things that, some cool things with it that I never would have thought about. And what's the reason I'm telling you this? I think part of it is, I think there are some people that have really leaned into this virtual servicings. And there are some people that have really said, well, I don't know if it's the same, I don't know if I'm going to be good at it. And I think the thing is once you do it, you'll figure out it's so easy and it's so, it's very similar to the in-home appointments as well. Right. I've also found booking appointments is easier too. I don't know, where you guys are at. I don't know if you get the objection of like, hey, just call me after this whole pandemic. And man, do I lean into that one. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that would be wildly irresponsible for us to come into the house. Oh my gosh, could you imagine? And that's a very easy book, right? We're on the same page as far as, how we're reacting to this virus, right? So just some things that I really loved, over the last several months about doing some virtual servicings I wanted to touch on. So a lot of times when I have these calls, people are like, okay, well, how in the world how does this virtual servicing work? How does the program work? What's your structure like? That kind of deal. So, I'll try to quickly go through from start to finish how this works, right? So, let's just say now it's non-push time, right? Now what I'm doing is I'll make calls on Monday. I usually do an all-day call day on Monday. If I need Tuesday, I'll use Tuesday as a call day. And then I have an assistant that shows up to my house. She normally doesn't show up to my house on Tuesday before she goes out. Usually I send her my appointment schedules. She has all the addresses of everywhere she's going to go. And then she'll just put them into Google Maps. And the cool thing with Google Maps is you can adjust, like you can put in, say, like 10 addresses. And then you kind of look at where those addresses are taking you. And you can put them in the most efficient way possible. So what I do is I have her start where she's at. I have her basically make a big circle around Raleigh and then come right back to my house or, end at my house, right? And you can adjust the addresses so that way, it'll be the most efficient route possible. And so I send her my addresses. She puts them into the Google Maps. She, judges them like that. She'll send me a screenshot so I know how much time it's going to take start to finish. And then I'll just let her go, and she'll drive around. She picks up knives. What's great is while she's doing that, my life is going on. So I'm either working out, having a few drinks, I'm making more calls, whatever I'm doing at that point, right? She's doing all that. And then I am at the house doing whatever, I'm doing at that point. So that's really cool. That usually happens on Tuesdays. And then I typically do my appointments Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So I'll do my appointments. It's usually every hour and a half, 8:30. My last one starts typically at 2:30. And it goes every hour and a half between there. All right. So I'm usually done by 4. And then on Friday, I have my assistant come back to my house and I have her gather up all the boxes. She loads them into her car and she does the same thing in Google Maps. drops them off in the most efficient way possible. What I'm trying to do is while I'm on the servicings, what I've noticed over the last really couple of weeks, not too long, is that a lot of people are willing to come to the house to pick up the knives so long as you're close to them, right? So I kind of slightly nudge them to do that in a very polite way. I'll obviously offer to take them back, but I'll say, hey, look, like, we would love to bring the knives back for you. We'd be excited to do that. But your knives are done. So if you'd like to show up, you can come get them whenever, because we won't be able to get them back until X day. By the way, do you ever get up to blank area, right? And then that starts the conversation of, oh yeah, I go up there for this, that, or whatever. And so oftentimes a lot of clients will just come to the house. What I'll do is I'll just package up their knives. I'll leave them on the front porch. They'll just come and pick them right up, and it makes it very easy, right? So that's kind of the knife pickup, knife drop-off system. It's Tuesdays, Fridays. Sometimes that will change if I'm going, on a weekend vacation or, whatever the deal may be. But typically that's how the schedule works. As far as the appointment itself, like I said, it's very, very similar. So I'll have some boxes in the corner here. And those are just all the boxes that my assistant has picked up, brought them back to the house. The night before all the appointments start, I'll just stack them in order. That way it's really easy for me to service. And before every appointment, I will get out all the knives and I'll lay them out on the table. This is the other reason I really like virtual servicings. I take about 5 minutes before the appointment to look at their knives. And then what I do is I have my upgrade set up right beside me. So here are all the knives. These are the ones that I'm going to sell to the client, right? Based on what they currently have. So my upgrade typically comes with 9 knives, a block, some table knives, and blah, blah, blah. Well, if they already have 1 or 2 or 3 of the knives, I can then go through those knives and adjust what they have, what I am going to sell them based on what they currently have, right? So it allows me not to have to think on my feet, all the time, and it kind of helps. It allows that selling process to go a little easier, right? So that's kind of that. Let's see if I can share my screen here. As far as selling, let's see, Brian, is there any way you can enable screen sharing, or is that not possible?
No, I'm sorry. We can definitely do that. Hang on one second. Cool.
So while he's doing that, as far as on the selling, it's very, very similar, right? So, we start out, I think the biggest difference that I've noticed in the start is I think, when you walk into a home, typically there's that rapport building time as you're walking in, you're kind of setting everything up, you're asking some questions. The thing with these virtual servicings that I've noticed is you want to get right to the point right away. So that way a customer's not like, well, why the hell am I even on this video thing? You're just sharpening my knives and you want to ask me about my dogs. Like, that's weird, So I always start right away and I'm like, hey, just the first thing I say when I get on is I'm like, hey, how you doing? Can you hear me? Blah, blah, blah. Just so you know, I've got your knives. They're right here. I'm going to go ahead and get started for you. But anyway, tell me your story. How'd you get the stuff? Who'd you get it from? How long have you had it? That sort of thing. And then we start on this, story. I'll pick some things out, kind of build rapport in that. And then I do tend to go over the knives that they have, a little bit more in detail and what they're using it for than I would in home. And that's just to create a little bit of value and I think in home that value is already created by, sharpening their stuff and talking to them, that kind of deal. So I found that to be a little bit different. Is just got to ask a little bit more about their knives, what they're using them for, that sort of thing. As far as how I go over it, my blue book is it's a virtual blue book. So I screen share with them and I'm like, hey, by the way, like, do you remember the guarantee at all? Oh, okay, cool. And then, I'll just show the guarantee and I'll go over it and, just like I would in the blue book, right? And then I have all these little things up here. These are, I don't know if you guys can see these, but these are just all the little things that I'm going to go over during the service call with them. And I just have that lined up from start to finish to make it easy, So, and I'll just go through it just like I would a normal appointment. And then, we go through the selling and all the prices are on my virtual service call or my virtual blue book. It's all up there. And like I said, everything is very, very similar. I also had a couple key questions to write down, and I figured what I would do, the easiest way to do this was kind of go over some key things that, I ask customers or key things, key phrases, that kind of deal. So I figured I'd do this and really have some time if we have time for Q&A. I felt like that was the best way to do it. So one of the things I always make sure to ask, and again, it's pretty much the same on every, just like in-home appointments, but one of the things I always make sure to ask is, hey, how often do you guys cook? Is it 1 or 2 times a week, 3 or 4, 5 or 6, or every day? That gives me a feel when I'm going into the close. I've also found myself asking a lot, like, hey, is there anything in the set that you guys use more than others? Is there anything here that you never use? Or do you use them all pretty similarly, would you say? Right? So just a couple questions there. Something that I really have started utilizing over the last couple months, more along the lines of rapport building, is, and I think I got this, honestly, Brian, it might have been from one of your calls, man. I don't know where I got it, but somebody's call, asking like, hey, how's quarantine life treating you, right? And I think that question is so powerful because, you know, as we all know, there's really 2 different types of people in this quarantine phase, right? There's the people that are like, oh, screw this virus, it's ridiculous. And there's people that are like, oh, we're gonna stay home. I don't wanna say anything to offend somebody. I wanna only talk about the things that we're gonna have most in common. So I asked that question, that kind of gives me a gauge of like, oh, hey, how are they feeling about things? Do I need to be like, you know, the jokester here? Do I need to be the light, you know, the person bringing the light into their life right now? Like, how do I need to approach this client? So I always ask that question, you know, close to the beginning of every appointment. Hey, how's quarantine life treating you guys? Some people it's different. Some people are like, oh, it's just the same as work. And it's a great rapport building question from what I found. Let's see. The other thing that I've started doing on the warranty, when I cover the warranty, and I did this, it's really just changing slight verbiage to adjust to the pandemic, right? So when I'm explaining the warranty, the 15-day trial period, I'm always saying, yeah, hey, Miss Jones, what's cool is that we have a 15-day trial period, blah, blah, blah. But they've actually extended that due to COVID to 30 days. So you actually have a full month to try everything out just due to COVID. And sometimes too, if, you know, if I feel like the customer needs it, I think a really good way to explain that too is, hey, it's really hard for a customer to, you know, feel and if you hear the dog, sorry. But it's really hard for a customer to know and feel and that kind of thing over Zoom. And so we just allow people to try it out, make sure it's what you're going to use and kind of go from there. And I think that puts a customer at ease as well. So a couple key little questions or key phrases there that I use. But like I said, the main thing that I want to get across about these virtual servicings, guys, is they're almost identical to in-home servicings, you know, and again, depending on where you're at, you may be able to do a lot of in-home servicings. You may be able to do a little or none at all. You know, but what I love about it is you're at home, you're chilling, it's easier, you can get more done. You're having somebody else do the driving for you. And you just get to sit at home and work, you know, and people freaking buy a lot over the virtual servicings. And I've loved it. And I think down the road, I think I'll do some in-home appointments, but I think my business will revolve a lot around, you know, the virtuals as well. I'll do some in-home and mainly virtual. So I think that'll be a big part of my business over the next coming years. So I think that's the main thing. I guess I'll open it up to Q&A if you guys have any questions for me about anything, things that I've covered, things that I haven't. Any questions at all?
Yeah, man, that's fantastic stuff. I love the dog dad mug. First off, that's on point.
Thanks.
I would love to see when you screen shared. I saw the guarantee page, and you were kind of highlighting there. Again, I'm not asking you to give away all the goods, but I would just be curious, like, how thorough is sort of your virtual blue book that you're sharing with customers? I mean, would you feel comfortable just like quickly thumbing through there just to get a sense for that?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I will say here's what's so crazy about this virtual servicing, man. One of my buddies, Josh Deploy, if you guys know him, he and I talk quite a bit. I am technologically just so stupid, man. Like, it's crazy. Nobody my age should be as technologically unadvanced as I am, but I'm terrible. And so, and the reason I say this is because, you know, the virtual blue book is awesome and it's helped a ton. But like, the thing that I've learned with all this is sometimes it's just like doing it badly is better than not doing it all. I literally used to, I think about a month ago was when I started the virtual blue books. I used to literally hold things up to the screen like this. And I would do that with pricing. I would literally, my entire presentation was, or the entire servicing was all, you know, holding things up to the screen. But yeah, for the virtual blue book, again, I don't know what I'm sharing with you, what I'm not, but I'll just kind of go through here. Like, let's see.
We're seeing a testimonial letter right now.
Oh, is that what you're saying? Okay, perfect, man. Perfect. Here, let's do this. Let's go. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll just go through it literally just like I do it with the customer. So I'll go through the testimonials. After the testimonials, I'll just jump right into the upgrade. And the upgrade, I really don't share with them much over screen as far as what comes in it. What I will share is I'll go through and I'll kind of hold the knives up. I'll show what they're used for. And then like, this is the Jason Jeffrey raw meats knife video, right? So I'll show that, and then I'll, go a couple more knives, and then I'll show the Jason Jeffrey thin slicer video for the melon knife, right? So I'll show that. And then the very next thing that I show after that is typically the Cutco Kitchen fold out. So I'll show, oops, that's not it. I will show the, let's see, this one here. So it'll be the Cutco Kitchen. I'll kind of talk a little bit about this. And then I'll go from there into, what is it? It's cookware next. So I'll go into the cookware. I'll show the cookware video and the cookware page, right? And so it's literally just a progression. I think after that, I go into, I think it's flatware. And then I think after that, or after the cookware is the cookware video, then it's flatware. And then it's, then it's into the Cutco Kitchen pricing. And then after the Cutco Kitchen pricing, I'll go into, I'll close, and then I'll go into just the knife upgrade, just, knife upgrade cookware, that kind of deal. But that's literally what I show. I think it's maybe 10 different slides that I have there. And that's kind of how I'll show it. Sometimes the last thing I'll say on this is if I am doing like just the knife upgrade pricing, I'll show them the ultimate set pricing here. So I'll show them this guy, right? And then I'll show them the price of the homemaker set. And then I'll show them the price of the knife upgrade. And that's pretty much, that's how I do the pricing. And I'm like, you just pay that $393 and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of really the main slides that I show there.
Nice. That's awesome, man. Yeah, guys, if he's willing to take a couple minutes here for Q&A, who else has some questions for him?
I do. I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Anthony.
What's up, Cody? Hey, so I know on our coaching group with Jason, we've talked about the Knife of the Month Club before, and I don't think this particularly goes towards virtual, but I think it helps towards selling Cutco all over in every aspect. I've heard it, and I would love a refresher, and then also I'm sure it would help all of us to hear about your take on what you created.
Yeah, Knife of the Month Club. What's funny is it's not really a creation, and I mean, it kind of is, but it's really more of a creative way to explain the trial period, right? Or explain the 5K. And so I really utilize this on a client that there's a couple ways to utilize this. One, I utilize it if a customer is just completely against like an upgrade and they're like, hey, just the one knife, right? Or if we've already dropped down to the one knife, I'll explain how, you can just buy one knife. It really doesn't make sense though. And by the way, have you heard of what we call the Knife of the Month program? Oh, or Knife of the Month Club. It's super cool. So we just had customers that would buy one or two knives and they'd come back the next month, or they'd see us at the next show and they'd buy another one or two knives. And honestly, Cutco loves it because you end up spending a ton more money that way over the years. But that's the big downfall, right? Is it's a lot more expensive. So what we did is we created this Knife of the Month Club where Cutco, we take our best-selling couple of pieces and we kind of package them together. You pay for less than the price of one knife because the knives typically go anywhere between 100 and 200. There's some below 100, some above 200, but anywhere between 100 and 200 typically. So you pay for less than the price of one knife. And we send you all 5 knives right away. And then here's what's cool. Instead of calling us back every month and buying another knife and buying another knife, all we do is we just basically charge you less than the price of one knife today and over the next couple of months. And we just send them all to you right away. There's no phone call. You don't have to worry about it. It doesn't continue after the 5 months. You don't have to call and cancel the Knife of the Month Club. We just send it all to you after the 5 times you're done. And what's cool is you get a free item out of it. And then I'll go over the tray. They get a free tray with Knife of the Month Club. And typically somewhere in there, I'll throw in like, depending on the knife, like I always usually pick the most expensive knife that I know they like. And I'm like, for example, like this guy's $150. What's awesome is like the Knife of the Month Club, you're only going to pay like $112 today. And you're going to get all of these guys here and we ship them all to you right away. And then you just pay that same $112 over the next couple of months, no interest, credit check financing, so on and so forth. So really what it is, it's a creative way to explain this, trial period or this, splitting it over 5 months, that kind of deal. I think it just puts it in a fun way to a customer and in a way that they're like, oh, that is a neat program, So it's a great question. I hope that kind of answers it in some way. That's a quick explanation, but I hope that answers it.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Who else has a question for Cody? If not, I will keep jumping in until he, rage quits.
You're good, man. Give me about an hour and I'm going to have a beer and we'll just hang out, man. It'll be a great time.
We'll just keep going. We'll write into shift selection. You'll accidentally pick some shifts down here.
I like it, man.
So a question that actually I have would be this. For those of us who haven't done this yet, and me chief among them, how do you really first frame this with customers? I mean, I know it sounds weird to me, and I know that's my own like limiting beliefs, but like, is it weird to customers when you're like, yeah, I'm going to sharpen your knives. It's virtual. My assistant will come, but we'll get on Zoom. It's fun. Like, how do you actually sort of frame or explain it to a client?
Yeah, that's actually a question I get. One of the most often questions I get asked. It's honestly pretty simple. So what I do is I go through the whole phone approach, right? Just like I would book a normal appointment. And somewhere in that phone approach, I'm going to say, hey, have you ever had your knife sharpened before? No matter their answer, I'm going to be like, cool. So typically what we do is we come to the house, we sharpen everything there on spot in your kitchen. And while we're sharpening everything, we'll just go over product care, product use tips. We'll go over the warranty for you, make sure you're getting the best use out of your stuff. We'll show you some new products and programs Cutco has going on. And then we head out. It's pretty quick, pretty easy, right? But as you know, Brian, there's really nothing typical about the world that we're living in right now, right? And that typically gets a laugh. And I'm like, so we've decided that we're going to get with the times and we're going to do everything safely and contactless. So the way it works now, it's almost identical, except we just have you leave the knives on the porch. We'll schedule a time to swing by and we'll pick them up. And we leave you with a business card to let you know that they're in safe hands. We'll bring them back here to North Raleigh, right off Falls and News Road. And then we'll just jump on a Zoom call together. And that's where we'll go ahead and sharpen everything. We'll go over product care and use basically everything that we would do in home. We just have to utilize Zoom instead. And then we can either figure out a time to drop them back by, or you can pick them up, whatever's more convenient for you. And by the way, are you still at blank address? Great, okay. And then it's just scheduling from there. So really the only difference there is like, I always explain how it works in home first. And the reason I do that is I want them to know that we're gonna show them new stuff, but I don't want them to object yet. So I'll tell them that, and then I'll go right into there's nothing typical about the world that we're living in. We're trying to get with the times, blah, blah, blah. And what I found too is that, honestly, I think customers tend to like it more as well. I think there's obviously some that prefer in-home, but the majority of people are like, dude, I don't have to clean my house. Like I can do it at work. I don't have to worry about my, kids running around and doing all this crazy stuff, and it's great, man. And like I've sold thousands of dollars to people that, I remember this one lady was a nurse. She was literally sitting in the hospital. And she's like, I don't have much time in between, I'm in work during work, whatever. And I would never have been able to see that client. So, they like it, we like it, but that's kind of how I set it up. And then afterwards, after the appointment is booked and everything's set, then I walk them through the last part of my phone approach. I'm like, cool. So just so you know how everything's going to work. By the way, do you guys have a block set or do you have several pieces? If it's a block, I just have them pick up their block and I have them put it in a box. If it is several pieces, I say, cool, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you grab a dish towel and just lay the knives on the dish towel. I usually do about 3 or 4 per dish towel. Fold the top of the dish towel over the blades of the knives, roll it up, make a Cutco burrito, and then just put it in a box. And here's the most important part, Brian. I'm going to have you write your name and address on that box, your first and last name as well as your address. We're going to have like 30 clients' knives here, so I want to make sure we're getting you yours back. Cool. And then, and then I'm like, I'm going to have you send me everything, even whether or not you think it needs sharpening, even if it's not a knife, send it anyway. That way, I don't pull out an ice cream scoop, but they're like, oh, we have that, that kind of deal. And then I kind of walk them through the Zoom call one more time before I get off the phone. And I'm like, cool, we're good. So that's typically how that works.
Nice. I love it. Rob Steiner asked, how far from your home do you have your assistant generally go to pick things up? Like what kind of radius are you working in right now?
Yeah, so I try to keep her within about, I would say, no further than 45-minute drive. And if I'm going to do that far of a drive, I'm going to schedule that, where I'm picking up many customers' knives in that area. I have had, this is a client that I had ship me her knives. And I have an appointment this week from a client that lives about 2.5 hours away. She's just going to ship me her knives. It's been kind of cool. I've been able to, having customers ship me knives. I've serviced people I live in North Carolina, so I've serviced people in Florida, New York. I think one lady was in Colorado. People that used to live in Raleigh, that was a referral type deal. They live out of the state now. They've just shipped me their stuff. But as far as my assistant driving, I try to keep it within 45 minutes from, from my house, my area.
Nice. Okay. Well, another question we had coming in, we probably have time here for one or two more, but with the factory servicing opening back up, for products that are damaged or too far gone, are you going to be trying to offer any kind of, ship back service, sort of like you would at service events, or how are you planning to sort of handle those eventualities?
Yeah, so I guess I'll answer this in two ways. As far as like if anything's broken or damaged or things that need to go back to the factory, I'll have the service request forms. I'll fill that out for them. Then I just put it in the box for them, just like I would at a service event, right? I'm not personally going to send them back at a service event. I would. I'm not personally going to do that. I think if you want to, I think that's awesome, and I think that's better customer service. I guess I'm just terrible, but I'm not going to do that. But I will fill out the form for them, and then I just try to make it as easy as I can. I'm like, hey, look, here's the form. Just do this, wrap everything up, put it in a box, send it off. It'll be pretty simple for you. And yeah, I think customers are thrilled with hey, because I think most reps, like, they're just like, oh, this one needs to go back, and they don't say anything, right? They don't teach them how to do it. So even if I'm not sending them back, I'm just giving them the form. That's way more than I think they've been used to before. So that's typically what I do, and I think people are thrilled by that. The one thing I will say, that the second way to answer that is the lady that I'm seeing about 2 hours away, she was like, well, isn't the factory back open? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And if you want to send them back, you totally can. Here's the thing, though, is when you send them back, it's going to take about 3 to 4 weeks to get them back. You're going to have to pay for shipping there and back. The cool thing is, like, if you want to next day them or 2 day them to me, I'll pay to next day them or 2 day them back to you. And then that way it only takes, 2, 3, 4 days, from the time that you send them off to the time that you get them back. And we can get this process done pretty quickly. And I think that's why people are willing to ship me the knives and not ship them all the way back to the factory. So.
Nice. That's money. That's awesome. Well, guys, any other questions that you have? I don't want to monopolize it with all my random stuff. So I guess my question would be this: what's the biggest thing you wish you had known about virtual service events before you actually got started with them? I've heard you kind of do a theme of, honestly, like, once you get past the structural differences, it really is it's kind of the same thing. Like I've kind of heard that theme hit a few times, so maybe it's as simple as that. But what's the biggest thing you wish you had known about doing the virtual service event program before you got into it?
Yeah. I think that's kind of a tough question, honestly, because it is very, very similar. I think the one thing that I wish I would have, I don't know if it's I wish I would have known, but I guess the one thing I wish I would have done is leaned into them a lot harder as soon as this thing hit. I think it took me a couple weeks to really lean into it and just accept that this is how it's going to work. Yeah. But I would say if I could go back, like, as soon as we got locked down, I wish that I would have been like, screw it. Like, this is it. Like, let's just go. And I think, what would have been crazy is, I think I'm going to have my biggest year ever this year, amidst all this, right? But I'm like, that's crazy. Like, I wonder what I could have done if I just didn't screw around those, 2, 3, 4 weeks that I did, right? And so, that would be my biggest thing, just leaning into this hard and, just going into it. So, yeah, if I had to look back and pick one thing, it would definitely be just figure it out, just do it, and do it right away. So hopefully that helps.
That's awesome, man. Well, you came so highly requested and highly recommended across our team. I'm shocked that personally my path has not crossed more with you, but I'm so excited to make sure that we continue to strengthen those bonds between our team and you, sir. And we sure do appreciate your time. We appreciate the good content. And if there's any way that our team can be of service or value to you, please know we're a very open book, and we're all about reciprocity. So let us know anything we can do for you. And thank you so much for your time today.
You got it, Brian. Hey, thank you, guys. And yeah, if I can do anything, reach out. Hey, thanks again for having me. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. And we will connect with you soon. Damn, that was strong.
Y'all take it easy.
All right. Damn, guys, I don't know about y'all, but that was on point. That was super on point.